By the conviction today of Mark Leonard and the guilty plea of Monserrate Shirley, we have completed two significant steps in achieving justice that we pledged for the residents of Richmond Hill.
Prosecutor Terry Curry after a swift verdict in the trial of the mastermind of the deadly Richmond Hill explosion. Mark Ray Leonard guilty on all 53 counts, including murder and arson.
Now that breaking news, the jury needing just over 3 hours for over 2 days to find Mark Leonard guilty of killing Jennifer and Dion Longworth. The decision announced shortly after 1 o'clock this afternoon. You watched it live right here on RTV6 and the RTV6 app. We have live team coverage for you. Rafael Sanchez and Derek Thomas in South Bend and Chris Profit in the Richmond Hill neighborhood. We begin tonight with Rafael, who has covered this story from the night Richmond Hill was in flames. Rafael?
And that was an unforgettable night, and today an unforgettable day. Relief is the word from the victims' families and the homeowners in Richmond Hill after that jury convicted Mark Ray Leonard on all 53 criminal counts. No one expected that this verdict would come so soon, so fast against Leonard. But the jury sending a clear message that they believed that Mark Ray Leonard murdered Dion and Jennifer Longworth and was responsible for the $4 million in damage to the homes there on the city's south side in the Richmond Hill subdivision. The jury finding him guilty on all 53 counts. People say the verdict brings them peace of mind.
It was just a horrible night, and I think everyone is stronger now that we've gotten to the other side, and we'll be fine. It's just, I'll never forget it.
A lot of people will never forget that day, November the 10th, 2012, at 11:11 p.m. The jury did not speak to the media today, but their actions spoke volumes in the courtroom. Let me show you what we were able to see today. The jury was being escorted out of the building. In fact, they were walked out through a passageway in the basement area where the courtroom is. They were escorted by sheriff's deputies. They did not speak to the media at all as they left the courthouse today. 16 people who served their community for 5 weeks here in South Bend. Also, just a few moments ago, I got the actual count. The jury went into deliberations at 9:43. They were done by 12:30. You add today's deliberations with yesterday's, and the time spent on this case was just slightly longer than this year's running of the Indianapolis 500. On this case, the jury spent 3.4 hours. The Indy 500 was over in about 3 hours. We're live in South Bend. Rafael Sanchez, RTV6.
All right, we'll look for you later in this newscast. Thank you, Rafael.
It took some time for the judge to read all those verdicts, but it took little time for the family of the victims to react. RTV6's Derek Thomas spoke with the fathers of Jennifer and Dion Longworth, and he joins us live with more on that story. Derek.
Don Buxton told me that when he heard the guilty verdicts, he thought to himself, this one's for Jenny. This 34-year-old Dion Longworth and his 36-year-old wife Jennifer were in the courtroom in spirit. Jennifer's father reacted when the verdict was read.
When I heard the first two counts and the judge read guilty, I thought, okay, I'm satisfied, whatever else happens. I think our children have received some justice. I'm not sure how you define that anymore in today's world, but whatever it is, they've received it, and that's all we can get.
For Dion's father, it's too early to find peace and much too early for forgiveness. He knows Mark Leonard will be put away for a long time, but he is not prepared to celebrate.
I'm sad. It's sentencing somebody to prison or anything is not anything to be happy about to me. Especially when what I would really like is to give Dion and Jennifer hugs, and that's not going to happen. So.
Don Buxton told me that he's going to go home, hug his wife, his 2 kids, and his grandkids. And he says they're not going to have a party, but they're going to shed maybe a tear or two. Live in South Bend, Derek Thomas, RTV6.
2 people dead. More than 120 houses were damaged the night of the Richmond Hill explosion. Today's guilty verdicts come as a relief after so many months have gone by. RTV6's Chris Profit is live in the Richmond Hill subdivision with reaction to today's events. Chris.
And Erica, it is a relief for all of the people who live in here. Remember that there were dozens of people injured and there were a lot of homes that were damaged. Some people just simply left. This is the house that exploded behind me, and Glenn Olvey lived right next door. He was home along with his now ex-wife and daughter. They no longer live here, and the house they called home for 7 years is gone. When he learned that his former neighbor Mark Leonard was found guilty on all 53 counts, he said that he had to come back to his former neighborhood.
I had to be here. I had to come back to where I was home for 6, 7 years. And when the verdict came in, it was just a flashback of that night.
And we talked to other neighbors today who say that these guilty verdicts are helping to really start the healing process for a lot of people in the Richmond Hill subdivision, and they know that the legal process is not over. Reporting live on the South Side, Chris Prophet, RTV6.
Let's look back now at some important dates that brought us to today. The explosion happened in the late night hours of November 10th, 2012. Just over a month later, Mark Leonard, his brother Bob, and Monserrate Shirley were arrested and charged. In January 2014, a fourth suspect, Gary Thompson, was arrested. A fifth suspect, Glenn Holtz, was arrested in April of that year. In January of this year, Monserrate Shirley enters a guilty plea and agrees to testify against her former boyfriend. Opening statements began on June 8th, and today the jury found Mark Ray Leonard guilty of all 53 counts. And coming up at 5:30, former Marion County Prosecutor Carl Brizzi joins me to talk about the speed of the verdict and what may have happened in the jury room.